Hey everybody, Grace here. Welcome to another video. Today, we are talking about some Edison format. Yes, Edison format. This is the fairy deck that I have been working on for a really long time. I'm excited to finally unveil it. I think it is very powerful. I think it is very underrated. I know you're probably rolling your eyes looking at this right now, but let me explain it to you. Let me talk the theory behind why I think this deck is quite powerful, why I think it fixes a lot of the problems that fairies have, and we'll look at some replays. And we're not going to look at just some, ladder replays. We're going to look at replays from the Edison Format War League, where I brought this deck twice now, and they both have been really great games, and the deck has really performed. The first match will be against Vayu Turbo, and the second against, one of Edison Format's best, 10FD. We had a really great match, and we'll look at those replays so we can kind of see the deck in action. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the theory behind my ideas with this deck and how it kind of came to be. This is going to be super rambly, and I'll probably talk for way too long on this, but I've worked on this deck for a long time, so I can do whatever I want on my own channel. So fast forward if I'm boring you to death if you want to get to the replays. So first and foremost, when I first started playing Edison format, I played like Hero Beat. I think when you're learning a new format, it can be beneficial to learn kind of like stunny, simplistic decks, more linear, type things where you can really focus on kind of more of what your opponent's doing rather than like having to focus on your, plays and stuff like that. And, at the end of the day, do whatever you want, but I think that's a good thing, good advice if you're newer and wanting to get into different formats. I would definitely recommend playing simpler decks until you understand a lot of the interactions and stuff, and I still don't, but eventually I wanted to play fairies because I'm kind of known as the fairy guy. I topped a GOAT format event with fairies, and fairies not really a deck in GOAT format, so I wanted to play the deck. I know I was kind of scared away by a lot of the downsides. People talk about how difficult it is to play, how grindy it is. I've heard the kind of comparisons to like GOAT Control and GOAT format, a deck that you really just have to grind for every single win, and it really isn't always necessarily worth it. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people don't play fairies, is you just don't have like the stupid free wins that often, unless you drop Christie, of course. So I didn't really enjoy playing like the normal fairies that much. I wasn't very good at it until I stumbled across Carpath's Chaos Fairy deck, and I immediately fell in love with it. I had so much fun playing it, and over time I wanted to kind of develop my own iteration of it. And one of the things I like about Carpath's deck is you of course get to play the boss monster Archer Christia, one of my favorite cards. It's been my profile pick on Dueling Book forever before I even played Edison format. But you get to, of course, play Christia, but then you get to play Caius. And, I feel like it takes some of that grindiness away from standard fairies where, like, sometimes you just get a Caius conga line going and you just win. And that's it. That's all you got to do. It's that simple. And so I really vibed with the Chaos Fairy deck a lot more. But at the same time, I wanted to kind of make my own version of it. And, because the Chaos Fairy, the kind of Carpath version of the deck really relies on Dimensional Alchemist, Battle Fader, DD Warrior Lady. You're really messing with the Banish pile a lot. And I think it's cool, but I also think it has some of those grindy elements that I think present weaknesses for fairies in, a retro format that is seemingly getting faster and faster and faster. And so I wanted to make a version of fairies where I could still play Caius. I could still, have those free wins because of that card. I really like the way that Caius kind of synergizes with some of the fairy engine. But at the same time, I wanted to play a version that was less reliant on recruiters to make Archlord Christie alive, because I feel like that's some of the problems sometimes when I played the Chaos Fairy deck or standard fairy deck is I just feel like I was running into deep prisons so often. You just have to, like, the only way reliable way to make Christie alive very often is to like crash recruiters, and I just felt like it wasn't a reliable method for getting Christie out. Maybe it was just me being bad, but I wanted to make a version that was, a bit easier to summon Christia, that isn't like Christia Sworn or something like that. So obviously, I guess we'll go through kind of the mill engine first. So I'm playing the Hamster Raikou package. These of course synergize really well with a lot of what we're doing here. They synergize well with the creature swap, which I'll get to later, because a really fantastic play is to flip Hamster, set a Raikou, and then swap with your opponent to steal one of their powerful monsters, attack over the Hamster, and then you have a Raikou waiting and laying in wait, I guess, which is really nice. Also, Raikou, of course, the hamster Raikou Caius, that's a whole thing, obviously. And then, of course, we're doing a lot of milling because of the triple Raikou, because of the card trooper, because of Herald. We're very often getting cards into grave very quickly. Venus, I'll get to in a second, but because of Venus, we're getting a lot of monsters into grave very quickly. So that is why I'm running the double pot of Avarice. And I don't know. I mean, this could maybe be something that's changed. It is, one of those cards, it's busted late game, but kind of horrible early. But at the same time, because I'm doing so much milling, I definitely don't want to play 3. I feel like that would be too bricky. I don't necessarily want to play 1 because there's a lot of times like I just mill it and I really want to have it in those late game situations. I mean, if you're able to like grind out your opponent with this deck, something that's really cool is you can, very often late, have these setups where you have like 7 fairies in grave and 3 or 4 other monsters, including like the Raikous and the Caiuses and stuff, and you can kind of modulate your graveyard with Avarice in order to make Christie alive. And there's a lot of games where I've been able to win that way, because if we get late and my graveyard gets filled up, like I can do whatever I want with Avarice to make Christia exactly live, make the graveyard set up exactly how I want it to be. So I think that's a kind of a cool interaction with Avarice and some of the fairy stuff because we're doing so much milling. So like I said, hamster, Raikou, Caius in a fairy shell. And I guess the other kind of weird part of this is the Venus engine. I know this is a little, I guess, controversial. Some people will call this trash. Some people will say it's good. I really like it. And, this is the same sort of idea behind the GOAT, fairy decks I played. And that's Venus's ability to summon multiple monsters on the board. It pairs really well, not only with creature swap, but it pairs really well with your tribute monsters like Caius. There's a lot of games against decks like Frogs where if they have a slow start and I can go Venus turn 1, get double Shine Ball, then I can immediately just double tribute both the Shine Balls for Christia. And, even if somehow Christia gets destroyed, I already then have 2 fairies in grave. Venus too, like I said, it's bringing monsters out onto the board. It's really like getting fairies into play really quickly, where, with the Chaos Fairy deck or the Standard Fairy deck, you just look at a hand of Recruiters and you have all these normal summons. It's like, how am I going to get these into the game? How am I going to get these into the graveyard to eventually make Christia happen? And sometimes it's just too late, where Venus immediately getting you 2 fairies, so you have 3 fairies right there already ready to go, I feel like is quite powerful. Now, of course, you can brick on the Shine Balls. That's definitely one of the downsides of the deck. It does help having Herald, of course, to pair with the dead Shine Balls. That can be a nice discard sometimes. Why do I play 2, I guess, as opposed to 3 is a good question. I think, in like Agents, in Tengu format, you definitely want to play 3 because of Gachi Gachi being such a, a powerful card. But at the same time, I want to minimize my chances of opening it. That's really all it boils down to. And very often 2 is enough to do what I need to do. So I'm willing to take that trade-off of having that extra Shine Ball to, avoid bricking even harder. I feel like if you open, multiple Shine Balls, you just lose pretty much. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it. I could be completely wrong. So roast me in the comments if I am, but that's kind of the idea behind that. So really the kind of main, engine of the deck, like I talked about, is these 2 card combos with Venus. You, go Shine Ball, you swap it over, get something really powerful from your opponent, or tribute one of the Shine Balls for a Caius, and all the while you're funneling fairies into your graveyard to make Christia happen. So that's, the kind of idea behind the deck. I'm thinking, is there anything else I really want to explain? I actually, we talk about Chaos Fairies. I'm running Darks, but I'm not running Chaos Sorcerer or what's the other one? I'll throw it up on the screen. I can't remember. Namely because I just wanted to make this thing quite a bit more consistent as possible. And I also found like running double Avarice with running the triple Christia, really trying to funnel fairies into the grave very quickly, via Venus, via these mills. I just I didn't feel like banishing. Like, I just never felt good to banish monsters from my grave. So that's kind of why I dealt away with the, the Chaos Sorcerer. Sometimes it was dead, especially if you look, you can have awkward hands where you open like double Christia, Caius, and a Chaos Sorcerer or something, and you just kind of want to cry. So I wanted to make things just a little bit more consistent. That's why I ended up cutting some of the Chaos engine. I originally had like Battle Faders in here. I've gone through many different iterations of the deck. Because of the way this is set up, I feel like its matchups are very interesting because some of the typical like good matchups for fairies and bad matchup for fairies. I feel like this version, I'm trying to remedy some of the bad matchups, but at the same time, I feel like I make some of my good matchups worse. So for example, the fairy deck usually struggles with, hamster Raikou stuff because you don't have a ton of, clean outs to it. And very often you have to like trade recruiters into it, and you don't have to, but you know what I'm saying? I just feel like there's not always a ton of, good bad cards that you can swing into a Raikou with to get it to go off. You kind of have to trade 1-for-1 with it, and then your opponent gets their mills. And so I feel like playing the creature swap engine and also playing the hamster Raikou Kaya stuff makes like our Vayu Turbo matchup quite a bit better. There's been games against Vayu where I'll go either way. If they start or I start, they set a hamster, or I start and summon Venus, and then they set a hamster back. But if you just like swap a Shine Ball over and get a hamster in return, like the game is just kind of won already. Like you have so much advantage already swung back in your favor. So I really like some of those interactions with creature swap and how it can really pair with so many cards in this deck. Obviously the Shining Angels, you can swap them over, to go plus. The hamster Raikou, engine works really well with creature swap, and of course Venus is fantastic. So there's a lot of great targets for the card. In certain matchups, it's not as good. That's one of the things I talk about. I feel like it makes like the Vayu Turbo matchup a bit better. I feel like against certain decks that are running the hamster Raikou Kaya stuff, I feel like, because of creature swap and my own hamster Raikou Kaya stuff, I feel like it makes my matchup against those decks better. But I feel like against Black Wings, against Hero Beat, some of those decks that really want to get after your life points pretty quickly, I feel like this version is a bit worse. That's one of the always things that people say is the fairy matchup is really good against Black Wings. I've never really like experienced that myself, even when I played more standard fairy lists. But at the same time, this deck definitely can struggle against Black Wings because of your like these Shine Balls you're summoning in defense position. Because of the Raikou, you can get pierced a lot, and sometimes you can just get run down before you can really get your engine going. But at the same time, this deck plays the grind game really, really well. I like the matchup against frogs. Depends on the build sometimes, but yeah. And then of course I stuck with the Decree from the kind of Carpath Fairy version of the deck. I feel like it's, just a complete blowout card in certain instances, especially with a lot of people playing like the Hero Frogs with heavier trap lineups. It's not as bad as it was. Yeah, and then I think the rest of this stuff is kind of self-explanatory. You have big hands usually, so Tragodia can be quite powerful. You run several different levels of cards. Gore is kind of self-explanatory. I'm running the small Shining Angel, package, because if I'm going to play three Christie, I need, X amount of fairies. And so having the small recruiter package is really nice. I can kind of go into Honest if I need it. I can go into Herald if I need it. I can grab the lone DD Warrior Lady if I need it. Like I said, we're really not focused on the banish area. That's why I'm not, relying on the DD Warrior Lady too much, but to search when needed is good. Card Trooper, just an awesome card to help you, get your engine going, get the Avarice set up, get your Christia ready to go. My Body is a Shield. I really like this because you are can be quite vulnerable to Torrential, Mirror Force, stuff like that. So I don't know. And Deck Devastation Virus, of course. I've been testing out one in the main, and it's been pretty good. I could see a reason for this to be slotted out for something else. Heavy, this all makes sense. Brain Control Book is a really good defensive option when you're running Decrees. One of the things that took me a while to figure out was how I want to side with the deck, because like I said, I was really struggling with like Black Wings and Hero Beat and these kind of aggressive decks that are putting big beaters on board. Of course, like this deck just gets wrecked by Deck Devastation Virus just as bad as any other fairy deck. That's a complete weakness of the deck that I completely acknowledge. It is what it is, and so I, of course, have a second My Body in the side. Hopefully Decree can stop it. Hopefully we can dust it early. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's one of the weaknesses of the deck, and I'm willing to completely acknowledge that. So I really needed to mix up the side strategy. And what really worked for me was Lila, very much going second into some of these aggressive decks. Not even like always against the aggressive decks, but just going second a lot. It felt like a really good sideboard option that would make me less, resilient to deck dev, but it also was a reliable way to get the mill engine going, so I can, start getting fairies in grave as quickly as possible, set up the Avarice, stuff like that. It can pair decently with creature swap in the right instances. So I really liked Lila, kind of going second, siding out some of the Raikou, hamster stuff. Of course, a lot of these other cards are kind of self-explanatory. Electric Virus, Consecrated, just super, super good. The Cyber Dragons is another way to kind of up my monsters that are not so susceptible to deck dev. Games 2 and 3. I think in against Blackwing, sometimes I'll just completely side out the whole, Venus Shineball engine. It's sad, but it's just not that good against that deck, unfortunately. And it, definitely weakens your matchup. But against a lot of other decks, I feel like this whole Venus swap Caius thing can be really powerful. If you open Venus, Caius, any combination of Caius or creature swap, you're feeling really good about your situation. So the rest of this I think is pretty self-explanatory, I'd say. So I have rambled on long enough. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I want to add. No, not really. I can add more about the deck if I have thoughts as we go through the replays. So first, we're going to look at my matchup against Vibes, who is on Vayu Turbo. This is, like I said, the Edison Format War League. Shout out to Birdcage, of course. We've gone on an absolute tear lately. Started like 0-3, 0-4, and have just maybe 0-5. I don't remember. And we've completely won out since then. And this was the, I guess, fourth game. We had 2 wins at this point, so this was to secure the week. So also, this is an older version of the deck I played in this match, a little bit different, not a ton. You see a Battle Fader in here, but the same kind of idea applies. So let's get into it. Just said hamster, right? Makes sense. I am aware that my opponent is on Vayu Turbo, I'm pretty sure. So I guess like there's an argument to potentially like hold the hamster, but like not flip it yet. I'm not sure. Listen, we all know, like, if you're on this channel for the first time, like, I'm not the greatest duelist in the world, all right? I like to talk about the game. I feel like I, do a good job explaining different concepts and stuff, but as far as raw dueling ability, I am pretty aware of my own skills and that I am not the best in the world. So you'll see plenty of misplays throughout these matches, I'm sure. So I decided to go ahead and do this. Let's just get like some monsters going. Let's get some monsters on the field, get this Avarice set up. And in the meantime, we're creating advantage. So I go ahead and just attack. And then I set the Raikou. I guess this plays a little bit into like Torrential in some ways. I think I can kind of easily get my board wiped, but at the same time, he has to commit, 2 cards to do that. And, even if I do get Torrentialed, I still get 3 mills. Even if I get Torrentialed on my own turn, I get 3 mills from the Raikou flipping, plus these other 2 monsters. So I feel like it's worth it anyway to go ahead and get that set up. My opponent sets a monster, passes to me, draw a second Honest, which will come in handy surely. Always when you see double Honest in hand, you got to be looking for, lethal lines. I decide to go ahead and flip the Raikou, start getting after those back rows. I go for the newest one. Not sure if that's correct or not, but that's what I do. Mill double Caius Avarice, which is good because I know I won't brick on Avarice. Obviously, I would have liked to see some other stuff go to grave, but besides the double Caius, but you know what? It's fine. Then I go ahead and decide to pop the monster because I know he's on Vayu Turbo, so I assume that it could be a Raikou or hamster of his own. Ends up being a Vayu. And so just like that, we've already got 3 monsters in grave. We got 3 monsters on the field. We are up a lot of cards, a lot of advantage, and we're starting to swing in for some damage. Good spot to be in. Like, this might be an instance where if I had, like, a Christia in hand, I would consider just, like, double tributing for it. Like, why not? They still have to out it. And sometimes, like, Christia can be so powerful, not just in its, negate special summon ability, of course, but a lot of times just because it's a free plus. Like, whenever obviously, in this instance, if I were to, tribute summon it, I wouldn't get that plus off of its effect. But a lot of times I'll, knowingly summon Christia into back row just to, get that plus and force out my opponent's back row. It can be a good play sometimes. So my opponent decides to go ahead and use Greffer. I don't really want to get rid of either of these Honests, so I am content. I think if I had like a dead Shine Ball in hand, I would consider maybe heralding this, but I have, ways I can set up game with my opponent being at 5,400 with double honest, and so I'm going to play it a little more patient. I'll let him get aggressive. I have Fader, I have Gores, I have Herald. Plenty of ways to kind of prevent myself from dying, though I am definitely going to take a bit of damage here. No point in using honest there, I don't think. I'll let him kind of make his play. Caius, very good draw. And this is exactly, everything's kind of going, exactly to plan here. The summon is successful, so then I target his Armed Wing to make sure I at least get that plus. Yeah, and then I swing over the Grepher, which goes through. I was very surprised to see. And now, like, we are, 7 cards to my opponent's 5, and this Avarice is live. I'm kind of curious why I didn't use it. Oh, I didn't use it because I was thinking if I drew 2 monsters, I didn't want to have to discard in the end phase. So that's why I decided to hold the Avarice. Makes sense. So my opponent makes Armor Master. He goes ahead and attacks there. I think I'll go ahead and get like some value out of the Gores now. I think this would be a good time to drop it before I get too low. And of course, knowing that I have the light token and double honest, there's a lot of avenues for game shots. So then I draw into Creature Swap, which is an interesting pickup. There's a lot of potential plays I could do here, and that's one of the things with fairies. You just have so many different lines, but at the same time, it can be really punishing if you make the wrong play. I do decide to go ahead and Avarice now because I want to look for, well, I guess Heavy Storm's already gone, but I would look for like an MST just to try to guarantee game or something. Doesn't hurt to just see what my options would be. So I draw into Venus and then Christia. Once again, a ton of lines, a ton of potential ways to, make stuff happen here. There's ways I could even make Christie live this turn, using like double honest and swap and all this stuff. But really, I'm not going to get too complicated with it. I decide I'm just going to try to get in with this light token, Gores token. I'm going to try to maybe like make it look like I don't have a ton of options and I just want to crash this token into the Armed Wing. But I do decide to go with the Venus first, kind of as like some sort of backup plan. I don't know if this is correct or not. I really don't know what my plan was here. I think just try to not act like I'm getting super aggressive, and hopefully this attack will go through. Once he gives me the thumbs up, I know we're good to double honest for game. So he must have been pretty bricked up back there on the back row. I don't know. All right, game 2. Like I said, Sork not in the deck anymore. So right here, I kind of assume, he could have obviously set a value, but I definitely assume like, starting most of the time it'll be a Raikou or a Hamster. So I don't have a ton of options. I mean, I could just like pass, like that wouldn't be, the end of the world, I guess. But I decided to go ahead and normal summon the Fader and Creature Swap, namely because the Fader is going to get banished if I summon it off of its effect, and so I want to make sure that I can get some value out of this Chaos Sorcerer, so I just pass. And this is not a bad spot because, it does turn out to be a Raikou, so I'm going to be able to pop his back row. But then on his turn, he decides to use Trap Dust Shoot, which I guess he was holding it and then decided he needed to use it now or else I was going to get value out of the Raikou, so, and he puts the Sorcerer back, so kind of a weird start for sure. So we mill a bit, got 1 Fairy Engrave, Light and Dark Engrave, so if I ever draw back into the Sorcerer, it'll be okay. And my opponent goes Card Trooper. But once again, kind of a weird spot. Like, I don't have a ton of options. I mean, I could summon the Honest and run over the Card Trooper. I definitely, don't want to let him just continuously mill and start getting the, value engine going. But at the same time, that doesn't really feel amazing. I think that's what I should have done. I think I should just summon Honest. And I remember setting the Raikou, trying to hit after his back row, and maybe I can draw into like a Caius or something to deal with the Trooper. He mills a Sirocco. Good to see Dark Armed out of the way, but at the same time, don't want to let him just continuously mill. So, and then I draw into Hamster. This was before I introduced the kind of Lila package into it, and so I still slimmed down on the Raikou Hamster stuff, so I had one Hamster, double Raikou, and this was really unfortunate because I milled the third Raikou, or I guess the second Raikou, so I didn't have any targets left for my Hamster, and so that was a bit sad, but I decided to attack with the Honest. He's going to get the draw, but I just can't let him keep milling. I should have done that last turn, and then just pass. 2 back row. Yeah, I decided to just set this. I mean, I could probably just summon the Honest and just keep attacking. Like, how much value am I getting out of this Honest right now? Especially now that he knows I have it. So, I don't know. I think maybe just keep getting after it. He does Greffer, sends Plague Vayu. Not looking great. I have Heavy. Like, I consider using it, but I think I want to definitely hold it for a better time. Just kind of an awkward spot. And you know what? Playing a deck like this, you can definitely just have awkward hands sometimes. It happens. One of the downsides. So he goes for Armed Wing. Of course, this whole time, like in the back of my mind, I'm worried about deck dev. That is why I do not decide to use Mirror Force here, because I want to make sure that if there is a chance that he uses it, that I have like a face-up monster so that I can use my body. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm not in a good spot here regardless. What does this play? Okay. Well, I have my body, so that will protect me from certain cards here, I guess. And of course, I guess I'm just assuming like I'm not getting a ton of value at this point. He already has an established board. Like how much value am I going to get out of Herald really? Especially having to go neg when I'm already down to use it. So it makes sense. I'll go Herald, try to Brain Con, make something happen. I guess I should try to Brain Control first and then summon Herald, but I don't know. Those little ordering things are always tricky. Yeah, at this point, I don't know why, but I have this read that this newest set is a D-Prison. I don't know where that, came from. So I decided to go Stardust, which obviously like Stardust, gets hit by the D-Prison. But that is why I decided to blind MST that. It was return. So I'm glad I hit the return, but at the same time, definitely not a D-Prison. Yeah, I don't know. I think because he didn't like D-Prison the Honest earlier, but I don't know. It was pointed out to me later by my teammates that maybe going Thought Ruler would be better here. Makes sense. Because my opponent does have Brain Control, which would have stopped it. I decided not to use the Mirror Force. Why do I decide to do that? I'm not 100% sure. I think I just don't want to keep... Like, I just need this Mirror Force really bad in this matchup. And he goes... Makes an interesting play. He goes Plague, double tributes for the Gores. So I know it's a Gores more than likely. And I don't know. I don't know if I like that play a ton from my opponent, because now I'm kind of, not down too bad in card advantage. I decide to summon the DD Warrior Lady. I couldn't decide between setting it or summoning it. I summoned it to play around deck dev. So, but at the same time, I feel like he would have used it at this point. So he goes Bottomless, and I respond with my body, and then he chains another Bottomless, and yeah, so that kind of sucks. I have to Mirror Force here, and I was just making sure you could like chain the second Bottomless onto there. It makes sense. So then I go Mirror Force, he chains deck dev, I lose my Honest. However, as you can see, we're sitting at 3 fairies. So, never know what can happen. I draw into Christia. So Christia with 3 fairies, nice. And now I'm praying for another fairy, because that bad boy is going to grave, and we hit the Shining Angel to get 4 fairies. This is beautiful. I summon Christia. Thought on my target a bit, and this is where I really blundered this, and this was a very big learning experience for me. I know this is like pretty obvious to most people, but Maintaining 4 fairies for the Christie is obviously very important. But a lot of times I try to be too passive with it, where I'm like, well, I'll keep the 4th fairy in hand and I can find a way to get it into grave as needed, for the Christia. But a lot of times, like, knowing that my opponent still has Mirror Force, it would be better to probably go ahead and just summon another monster and swing with both. I think I was just a little worried about, like, getting randomly attacked over. I don't know what I was worried about, why I decided to hold this. I think just I wanted to have like this Christia Honest combo. It just seemed nice aesthetically, but this was a misplay because my opponent has Mirror Force, and if I would have summoned Honest, I could have instantly grabbed Christia again, especially if my opponent doesn't kill me this turn. So now I'm forced to set the Honest. My opponent does not draw into another monster, so I could have done some stuff there, but now I'm just forced to pass. My opponent goes Armageddon Knight. And they have that, and that's a wrap for game 2. So big misplay there at the end, really. I should have caught that. But you know what? That's all right. We learn from it. Here we go. Into game 3. It's a great start. I don't really like double fader, seeing both faders. I think I sided like a fader in. I think I had one in the main at this point. I don't remember. For decks like this that are really trying to get after it, but at the same time, you just get wrecked by deck dev. This is one of the things I was talking about earlier, where like the Karpath Chaos Fairy is really focused on this like banish stuff, where like fader doesn't. I like fader a lot in a deck that runs like a low spell trap count, a lot of monsters. You can really catch your opponent off guard. It pairs well with Creature Swap, pairs well with Kaya. So I see a lot of the reasonings for it, but just the fact you're not able to recycle it with this version of the deck is why I eventually cut it. But all that aside, seeing Venus swap early against a deck like Vayu Turbo is really nice, because they basically, I don't want to say no disrespect to my opponent, but I feel like smart duelists that I've played against with this deck, they know you have to get after these shine balls very quickly. Like, you cannot let them just sit around, because if he sets a monster back, he's playing exactly into my strategy, what I'm trying to do. So, my opponent goes Sirocco, and at this point, I don't see my body in my hand, so I'm just scared to death of getting completely blown out by deck dev here. He sets it, and I'm like, well, here we go. Now, I have some options. I could go charge, just see what happens. I could summon Herald, make like Bryo, maybe pitch a fader to send his back row back, then summon Christia or something like that. I could just charge, pass. Of course, Creature Swap. I could double tribute for Christia. There's a lot of options here. But I decide to go ahead and take kind of the slower approach. I'm thinking in my head, I'm dead anyway. I'm pretty much screwed if he has deck dev, and plus if he has deck dev, I don't want to charge yet. I guess I want to save it until after deck dev's done, so that I can actually use it. So I decided to go ahead and just go for the Creature Swap play. If he has it, he has it. And he did not, because he surely would have chained it there. And so this is huge. This is just such a good spot to be in now, because now my opponent has to deal with a 2000 beater, and I've still got another Shine Ball on board. I'm getting fairies into grave. I've got more mills coming with the charge. So I know that he doesn't have DDV, so I go ahead and use it. Don't hit any fairies, unfortunately. I add Raikou. I haven't used my normal summon yet. This is crazy. Like, just this is what I'm talking about. Then you open little 2-card combos with the Venus swap stuff. It can really swing the advantage in your favor against certain matchups. All right, my opponent sets one back, sets a monster. What's the play here? Definitely some options. I could synchro. I could just start picking off the back row with the Raikou, which is what I decide to do. Keep milling. So now I am at 3 fairies, so it's definitely some options here. This is the line I take. Oh yeah, I remember this now. I've never summoned this card in my life, but today we're busting out the worm, the mist worm. I don't know if this was the correct line. I think there might even have been like a lethal line I missed. Let me know in the comments if you see it. But I thought this would be good. I thought to put him back in tempo. It didn't seem like he had any, chainables just based off of what I'd seen so far. And of course, this makes Christie alive and gets in for a ton of damage. So, Mist Worm it is. The worm is loose. I grab Venus. I didn't grab the other Herald because didn't want my opponent to think that I had Herald. I mean, maybe like they can imply that I have Herald because I didn't grab Herald, but at the same time, just to maybe cause a little misdirection. Yeah, maybe there was a lethal line there. Let me know. I'm not sure, but anyway, I got my opponent at 700 points. They have a lot of cards. I mean, there's some board wipe cards that could be pretty, problematic. So I'm not feeling amazing about the spot. And he just kind of resets his board. I decide to kind of think here. If he does have Mirror Force, at least I will be able to reset Christia again next turn. Plus I have Fader to kind of protect myself against random stuff. So yeah, I decided to just, let's just swing. And then I'll kind of know if he, if it's a Raikou and he, which it is, if he hits the Mistworm, I will know that his back row aren't real. And in which case I'll know to use Herald. And if he hits the Christia, then I'll know that his back row are real. In which case I will, figure it out main phase 2, I guess. But he goes after the Mistworm, kind of, indicating me that he has to deal with it. And that's it. He had Dust Tornado and Deck Dev set. So I got really lucky he didn't have that Deck Dev early. I talk about liking the, Vayu Turbo matchup. I like it, when you can do those little turn 1 creature swap plays, but obviously Deck Dev is a blowout card. So that was my match against Vayu Turbo. Now we get to my most recent replay against 10-foot. I was really looking forward to this matchup. I always like getting the chance to play against better duelists than myself. I always feel like it makes me better. I always feel like it makes me want to try harder and play better. And I always have it, like when I get paired against somebody really good, I'm like, all right, I want to take them down. I want to be the one to do it, especially with some jank like this. So here we go. Good start. Always nice seeing the Venus with the Caius, not seeing any shine balls early. Good. So I know he's more than likely on Hero Frog. He attacks. I think, and this was pointed out to me by my teammate BS45, a fantastic duelist, that I should probably honest here, just to like push the advantage and just to get rid of, Stratos, get the tempo back in my favor. He doesn't have his Frog engine going yet, and I can really put a lot of damage on board very quickly. But I'm a bit too passive with this honest. I think that I agree with his evaluation that I probably should have honest there. So yeah, I decide to, what do I do here? I decide to set the hamster. Why do I do this? Why do I decide to do this as opposed to go Caius? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I know I had a reasoning for it because Caius, like, it's kind of the obvious, you just Caius, but why did I decide not to do that? I don't know. I had some sort of reasoning, I guess. Probably was wrong. Maybe how to do something that he could have like a chainable set, or I don't know, but I mean, I'm going after the Stratos anyway, so I don't know. He goes with a Ryza, so I get punished, sending the hamster back. And this is just a horrible spot to be in now, because, yeah, especially if he gets the Frog engine going and starts spinning back the Ryza. And this is definitely showing some of the weaknesses of the deck. This is an obvious Heavy Storm here. I say obvious. I decided not to use Heavy Storm because I'm thinking he probably has a chainable, either Raigeki Break or Phoenix Wing Blast, Karma Cut, something like that. And if he deals with my Shine Ball, then I really need to get this Caius going. But then at the same time, I have Brain Caius, so I don't know. I think that was my reasoning for not using Heavy, is I didn't want something to happen to this Shine Ball, because that's my ticket to getting Caius out and trying to swing the advantage back in my favor. So that's why I decided not to do it. And it was a mistake, because then I get torrentialed. So at the end of the day, though, definitely didn't not off to the start that I want, but I'm only down a card. I guess half a card. He makes the whole, frog stuff. It's another thing I like about being able to play Caius and fairies, because fairies has very little answers to the Duplock. So, being able to go brain Caius, being able to just summon Caius in general is a great out to the lock. And then he just smacks me for a ton of damage and does a lot of different things, blah, blah, blah. Drawn to Christia, which is like, ooh, okay, things could get interesting here. And we get dust shooted. I just want to think of what could have been, like, if I didn't get dust shooted here, because there is some route I could have taken where I could have gone, like, I don't know. I could have done something to make this Christia happen. Oh, but you know what? Yeah, you know what? I think that most people would send back the Christia. I completely lied. That doesn't make... I feel like he could tell faster than I could tell even now that I don't have a way to make Christie alive, actually. Fun fact. So he decides to send the hamster, which is really interesting to me. I was like, why would he send hamster? Because I have, like, he knows I have brain, I have heavy, I have this. So I was like, I'm not screw it. I'm just going to heavy, and then let's just see what we have to work with here. And I thought about this for like 3-4 minutes. It was a long time. Sorry if it was excessive time, but I did not know what the move was here. I really don't want to even get all into, I don't want to go down this hole again, but think about what you would do. I'm not 100% sure. There's no way to make Christie alive, really, unless I like set Shining Angel, but I just lose to any, I don't know. There's a lot I could lose to there if I decide to do that. Obviously I could go like Shining Angel, attack over, use Honest, but then I'm at 5 fairies. So this Ab-Zero is a headache. Yeah, I mean, I think the correct play is to set the Shining Angel, hope that he doesn't have anything. Like, I think I just have to hope he doesn't have anything. In hindsight, he had a swap, so I don't know what he could have done there. But because then I could go, Shining Angel, he attacks, I grab DD Warrior Lady, and then I could Brain Con the Ab-Zero, or I could grab something else and then double tribute for Christia, and then Christia dies, but then I still have 4 fairies in grave if I do it that way. So I don't know. I think that was the play, but I decided to just do this stupid move where I go Shining Angel, gotta brain the dupe, or else I can't attack. So I don't know. I think I should have just said the Shining Angel. It probably would have done me some good. I think I could have got my way out of it if I had done that. Maybe not. Maybe there was something he had. I don't know how frogs totally work. And so he has swap, miracle. Oh, so he drew into another miracle fusion. Yeah, so I was dead anyway. All right, good to know. So I just got smoked. I mean, let's be honest. I made a lot of bad plays there. Should have used heavy. Should use Caius quicker. Should have honested the Stratos attack. So now I'm down 0-1 against a great duelist, looking like a fool with my stupid deck. I gotta fight back. Good hand. Dust shoot, of course. Opening. No shine balls. We're gonna have ways to make Christie alive. Christie, of course, being very powerful against frogs. I use dust shoot. Once again, I'm kind of a noob, so I don't know. I mean, I guess I send Treeborn because, I mean, he can do whatever he wants anyway with 1-for-1. So now I make him have to discard a real card to use 1-for-1. But he goes sub, gets the, Treeborn Engrave. So I think I couldn't have avoided that anyway, but it's fine. I think I made the right move. So I see 1-for-1, Miracle, Smashing Ground, Substitute, Treeborn, Raigeki Break. So I know that he has some answers to Christia, so I can't just like double tribute and just start getting after it. Though that might not be a horrible move, because if I did that, then that puts me at 3 fairies. If I can get my graveyard more going, I can, get an Avarice. This is an awkward game where Avarice definitely conflicts with Christia, and that's something somebody has mentioned to me before about this deck. But I just think it was this game in particular. I've played a lot of matches with this, and I haven't really seen it been that big of an issue with Christia conflicting with the Avarice, but I definitely can see how it could. So he does this thing. I'm really like in this matchup, I try to save the Herald for like the Monarchs for the most part, and that seems to have done me well in a lot of situations. So he goes dupe. So we're at 2 fairies now. So I could like make Cataster Christia, but what does that exactly accomplish? Because he still has Raigeki Break. He still has Smashing Ground. I mean, I don't know. That might not be a horrible move, but I can't, deal with his board. So I'm not sure. I decide to just go ahead and just, let's just Caius. I think this deck can definitely outgrind frogs. I believe. It just passes, especially if they start kind of slow like he did. So I assume his set is Raigeki Break. Yeah, in which instance this might have been a time to make an 8-star and then summon Christia, but I think I'm just being a bit too passive. This is kind of a trademark of mine. Not really a trademark of mine. I think sometimes you need to be aggressive and you don't, and sometimes you need to play passive and you don't. I think that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes like identifying when to get aggressive and when to get passive, or what makes great players great and why I'm not great. Because I walk into a Torrential here, which not the end of the world because it does put me at 4 fairies. I was surprised, of course, that it was Torrential because I was trying to play around Raigeki Break, but I'm not going to overthink this here. I'm just going to go ahead and Christia, get my plus. He's going to be forced to use Smashing Ground, and I'm going to get in for 2,800. So really good spot to be in here. So that's 2 pass. I know 1 is the Raigeki Break. I don't know what the other could be. I'm sitting at 3 fairies, so I have learned my lesson from my previous duel replay, where I know in this situation I really need to summon both monsters onto the board. And I decide to just start trying to get after it. And we run into Mirror Force. So he still has Raigeki Break. He still has Smashing Ground. Yeah, I mean, that is the thing with this kind of trap version of frogs, where against several versions of frogs, this would just be, that Christia would have just been GG. But I decided to just do it again. Once again, like the Avarice, like I said, it's kind of not doing a ton. But at the same time, I'm up so much in cards. I'm perfectly fine with this, because eventually, I can have a turn where I can set the Raikou and then, fill my grave even more. So he uses Raigeki Break, drops the Gores, and do I use Herald here? I don't remember what his hand was anymore at this point. I'm sorry. This replay analysis has been, not the most conclusive in the world, but I definitely remember thinking about this, and I let it go through. I think I should just Herald it. But then that puts me at a certain amount of, fairies, and that makes Christia dead. But then if I can just Raikou one time and get another monster or two, then I can make Christia alive with Avarice. So I'm not sure. I think I let him back in this game by doing this. I'm not sure. Crashes with the Shining Angel. Maybe he was assuming I didn't have DD Warrior Lady or something, but also he does that to shuffle back the Christia, so that's smart. This is how not great I am at this game. I drew for next turn here. I'm gonna keep fast forwarding, and I drew, and I go, where'd my Christia go? Where'd my Christia go? where did Christia go? It took me like 5 minutes to keep looking at my graveyard. Where'd it go? And then I realized because of Shining Angel, it sent it back. Venus, not a great draw, but okay. I mean, still in a great spot. Up in cards. I don't know why I summon this first before I Avarice. I think I should just Avarice first and then do this play. I don't know what I'm playing around by doing it in that weird order. But this is not a horrible spot to be in. Like, I'm recouping advantage. I draw into Christia. I can summon double Shine Ball, allowing me to just get after it. I'd really like to have an Honest. Like, I haven't seen any Honest this game. That would be, quite helpful. But I haven't seen a lot of cards because my stuff's been getting, shuffled back. So, fair enough. We get a Deep Risen out. It's just like, man, like, can this guy just die already? Like, I'm like tasting victory. This would have been the winning game for my team for the week, as you can tell by my my reaction. You can kind of imply where this is going. So he sits another monster. I have no fairies in grave. I could double tribute for Christia or something crazy like that, but at this point, I'm just believing every back row is real because everyone has been so far. These traps have really hurt me, and I kept my decrees in too. I know, I'm just being whiny. I decide to go for a Bryo play to make Christie alive. But he Raigeki breaks the Herald. But whatever. I mean, like, still in an incredible spot. Then he goes Caius. Okay. So he's able to clear my field, which sucks. I draw into Herald a turn too late. So I have a, level 8 synchro play I can make here. I could also crash and make Christie alive. I think this is a pretty key turn. I don't remember what I end up doing. Yeah, I think I do end up making an 8. Dark End. And that was game 2. For some reason, I'm sorry, we're going over this video. I thought that was game 3. So I was like, oh, I won. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm giving away everything. I think that replay though did really show the deck in action. Of course, he was, open kind of slow, but I think it showed how it can really maintain advantage and win the grind game against frogs. And then we go into game 3, and we're like 50 minutes into the duel at this point. So, yeah. I'm gonna go a little bit quicker. I don't have a ton of time. Let me see something real quick. Okay. So he goes Stratos, open a Shine Ball, kind of sucks, kind of an awkward hand. Again, these early Avarices. I attack with the Shining Angel, and this was my only fear was Deep Prison. I was perfectly content with anything else because then I get stuff into grave. I really need things in grave with this Avarice and this awkward ass hand. So, yeah, I really needed this attack to go through because I was going to use Honest, especially because he doesn't have his Frog Engine yet. So, that was bad. He attacks. And now I'm just desperate to, I have Brain Caius, which is nice, but I'm desperate to stop the bleeding. He goes Mind Crush, thinking that I have Creature Swap, but he gets to see my hand. I guess that's the ruling. I don't remember how Mind Crush works, but I trust him on that. So yeah, so then he gets to see my hand. It's a bit unfortunate, but kind of a big brain play, thinking that I had the creature swap. That would be a pretty normal creature swap setup here, but it was the Honest that he probably could have thought it was Honest as well. So, but I do get a discard out of his hand, which is nice. I hit Malicious Edge, which, what else could I cut it here? We had Soul Exchange. Yeah, I guess I'm cool with that. Attack, go ahead and go Honest. I gotta just start getting monsters in grave. And fast. And this also gives me a chance where if he doesn't get back over the Shine Ball, then I can Caius next turn. But I decide not to Caius. I decide to go Card Trooper. Makes sense. I have the Avarice. I really need to get this graveyard mills going. Cool. So that's put me at 3 monsters. Fantastic. I attack with the Shine Ball. I consider for a bit not attacking with the Card Trooper. Namely because like my win con really hinges upon resolving Avarice. And I mean, even if both of these go to grave, I'm at 5 fairies, so it's not the end of the world. But also if I can incite him into like doing a dupe block or doing Miracle Fusion or, you know, summoning a Caius for whatever reason, I'll have a Torrential and I'll get so much value out of it. So I consider not attacking with the Trooper and just sitting on it. But I get greedy, decide to do it, and I run into a second Deprison, which I think it's a little unlucky, to be honest. But it is what it is. He goes Swap Frog. Whenever people start like special summoning Swap Frog, I don't know what's going on. But we're getting a lot of value out of this Torrential here. I decided to just flip it. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I thought for half a second about like holding this even longer because he still hasn't used his normal summon yet, but that would be just ridiculous. Because what does he have for Infernal Prodigy, Soul Exchange in hand? So yeah, I don't think he'd be summoning anything else. Drawn to Gores, which is going to really help me stabilize. And really not in a horrible spot. I'm just going to play passive. Just take my time. Nothing really I can do. Goes Junk Synchron. Sorry. Does frog stuff. Makes an android to sit on, which makes sense. He decides not to attack. This is a very smart move because now like he's just going to gain life. But I do have Brain, Caius, Gores, Trag. I have to think here a bit myself as well because I don't know. My head kind of hurts at this point thinking about what, you know, move I should make. I need to use something. I'm deciding whether I want to set or summon the DD Warrior Lady, and if I do, like, what's my move? Oh, I decided to go ahead and go DD Warrior Lady, attack, take the battle damage. That way I can get this Trag out of my hand and just start, you know, pressuring him. I am a little concerned about Gores, so I had to do a quick Google to make sure that I could steal the Gores token that's going to be at 3,000 with my own Trag. I didn't know if you could steal tokens with Trag, but evidently you can. So I was preparing for the Gores myself. We hid in for 3,000, get the Trag on board. It's a great spot to be in. And then what is this? What is this set heavy? This is, it's not even worth talking about. It was horrible. Ridiculous. I shut off my own Gores. He could just have no spells and traps anymore. And I'm just dead in the water. I make my Trag at 2,400. This is stupid. He does heavy. My heavy. And at least now, like, he won't think I have Gores because, you know, what idiot would set heavy with Gores? Does the dupe block. Like I said, this fairy version that plays Caius laughs at your dupe block. So, Avarice. Great Avarice here. Once again, I'm tasting victory. And I think this is all kind of standard. Just getting after it. Just passes. Yeah, I think I just set the hamster. I think that makes sense, I guess. I probably could have gone. I probably could have just gone like Venus Shine Balls there. I think that might have been better just to go Venus Shine Balls just to get them out of the deck so I don't draw them and just to, you know, set up a defensive presence. Yeah, I really wished I would have done that now, especially with Christia coming into my hand. No fairies yet, but plenty of ways to mill. So this is a good chance to get some milling going. I decide to hamster. Just in case his set is a torrential, I want to do this first because I'm going to summon the Lila, and then I want to make sure I get an extra monster into the grave, thin the deck out a bit. And it is torrential. And I mean, can't complain. In a good spot. Except we're about to take a lot of damage. I drop Gores. Big ol' Gores token. And really, I kind of fumbled the bag here, I think. There is quite a few options. There is definitely a world where I can make Christie alive. No? I don't know. This play just absolutely broke my brain. We're at like 60 minutes in this duel at this point. And my only fear is like I could have ended on Christia. I remember thinking that I could have ended on Christia somehow. No, I don't know. Because I could go like Shining Angels. I could go, hey, here's where the third, well, I would die if I used the third Shine Ball. I think my only fear during this is knowing that I'm at 1500 and I haven't seen any Caiuses yet. And so if I pay too much, I'm just going to die to Caius. But then if I have a Christia on board, you can't summon Caius. Oh, I could have made Christia, but I would have had to leave him with a Treeborn. I don't know. There was some swap plays here I definitely could have made. I don't know. I don't know, to be completely honest. I think I'm just so worried about Caius, dying to Caius. I don't know what I end up doing. I think I end up just like crashing these, which I die to Caius regardless of what I decide to do. But I don't think it's unreasonable to like be concerned about Caius when he probably has 3. He hasn't seen a single one yet. He's got 16 cards left in his deck. So then I do that, and then I go main phase 2, go Venus, and then I decide to do this. Why do I do this? I don't know. This hurts. I could also go ahead and do the Christia. Like this is what I'm talking about here. I could. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I played this horribly. I'm just going to be completely honest. I go main phase 2 for Christie. Okay, so that's not a horrible move. I don't really need to set this, I don't think. What's he going to do? Pot of Greed? So, I mean, I think this is okay. We put the Christie on board. That's nice. We just got to hope he doesn't have any more back row. And we got Lila here to start getting after those back row. Turns out to be an MST. I consider doing a creature swap move here. I don't know what that's accomplishing. I forget to mill. But honestly, like now I'm like, all right, well, I'm in a really good spot. Cool. I just, even though I played that whole last sequence a little strange, I just decided to attack. I mean, I guess I could summon the Shining Angel and start getting after it, but I just worry about him finding a way to clear that and then attack over for a lot of damage. And this whole sequence at the end is just a little strange with how I played it. I think I threw, but at the same time, like all the decisions I made were, I feel like I was trying to be conscious of certain things that he could have that could kill me. And so that is kind of why I played it how I played it. So I'm not going to defend my play, but at the same time, I feel like I did everything for at least a reason in my head. I consider some sort of creature swap move here. But ultimately I decide like I just got to start getting aggressive. If he has the Caius at this point now, I'm just screwed. Like if he has it, he has it. So, and I feel at this point right here, I feel like it's slipping away from me. And he goes Treeborn, draws into the Miracle Fusion, and I die. So that was a really close game. I think I could have won that. I really do. I really think I should have won that. I think that the deck was performing. I think it was outgrinding frogs. I think I was drawing well as well, you know, let's be honest, but that one hurts. Anyway, that was it. I hope that video was entertaining for you all. I hope you enjoyed it. I think that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging around. Until the next one. Bye.